Alright, what we're going to be working on in this next exercise is we're going to be working with CSS selectors, but we're going to be working with descendant selectors as well as one of the pseudo classes that jQuery allows you to pass on. So this will help reinforce concepts that we've already covered as well as introduce a couple of new methods of selecting. If you're able to select the various items on the page really well, then that really makes you very powerful in using jQuery. So this is an extremely important aspect of utilizing jQuery. The page that we're going to be working on right now just contains a list with several nested list items. So you can see right here, screwdriver, wrench, hammer are the top list items, the first tier, and then we have the external types, slotted types, adjustable torque, whatever, the ones with the little hollow circle are second tier list items, and then the ones with the square represent the third tier list items. So we're going to augment this page considerably with the use of some styles and using jQuery. If we take a quick look at our HTML, the page has a unordered list that has nested list items inside it, and the only ID that I have attached here is a ID of useful to the top unordered list item. So that's the only one. You can see these nested list items wherever it is that they occur on the page. They do not have any sort of class or ID assigned to them. So to begin this exercise, we're going to need to create a class that we can pass on via jQuery. So I'm going to just create a class here called horizontal, and in our horizontal class we'll go ahead and we'll define a float of left, and let's go ahead and define let's remove the list style from the top tier list items. We're going to go ahead and set that to none, and let's just set a margin so we have a little bit of spacing all the way around. We'll use a margin of 20 pixels. So if I save the page, nothing is going to happen on the page because I haven't actually defined this class to appear anywhere. We won't actually be defining this class in our HTML anywhere. We're going to use jQuery to do that. So we'll pop on over to the jQuery page, and I've already linked the HTML to this jQuery page, and I don't have any jQuery in here other than the document ready function. And of course, you already are familiar with the document ready. We know that we need the document ready, which makes everything inside it available as soon as the DOM has loaded on the page. So inside our first statement that we'll be defining here is going to be targeting the useful ID, and we're going to go ahead and target any list items that are direct descendants of the useful ID. So we're going to go ahead and use the child combination to be able to target these list items. I'll go ahead and I should actually enclose this in quotes like so, and we'll close the parentheses, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to pass on a class. So we'll go ahead and do our add class, and the class that we want to pass on is going to be that horizontal class. And you can see that I don't have to put the dot inside this parameter, and that's because I've already established it's a class by using the add class. So here we go. We're going to save our page, and if we go ahead and view this in the browser, you'll see that the page is going to change quite a bit. When I refresh the page, now the list items are going to appear in 3 columns, and it's going to take the top level list items and apply these particular styles to them. So if we come back into our page and look a little bit at the jQuery statement that we've made right here, what this is doing is it's using the descendant method of selecting to add the horizontal class to only the top level items. So this is saying find each list item that is a child of the element with an ID of useful, and then apply this horizontal class. So that's pretty easy. It's similar to what we've done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to style the other elements on the page we want to apply a style to all of the other items that are not in the top level. So this can be done in a number of ways, but we're going to go ahead, and since we've already applied the horizontal class to the top level items, one way to get to all the sub-level items is to use the negation pseudo class to identify all the items that do not have a class of horizontal attached to them. And if we pop into Firefox and access the DOM right here, and if we click on these top level items, you can see that they have a class of horizontal, and if I twirl open these, none of the other list items have any sort of class associated to them. Here's my nested list items, but none of the nested list items have the class. The only items that are going to have the horizontal class are those three top level ones: screwdriver, wrench, and hammer. None of these other list items, if we go ahead and mouse over those, you can see that none of those have any sort of class attached to them. So let's go ahead and let's get back into our HTML portion of the page. We're going to create another style that we can then use, and the style, I'm going to call it .listNot. And we'll just do something simple on here. We'll just change something so that you can actually see it changing. Let's change the font style to italic, and let's go ahead and let's change the color of these items to just a gray. We'll kind of make it a mid-tone. Well, let's make it blue or something so that we can see it. Okay, so if I save the page, of course nothing is going to happen because we haven't applied this class at all. Let's go ahead and let's apply it by going into our jQuery and creating an additional statement. So this time we're going to go ahead and we're going to again be targeting the useful unordered list, but we're going to be a little bit more specific by using the negation selector, the negation pseudo selector of li:"not. So what this is doing is it's basically going to be saying that we're going to get every list item that is not a descendant of an element with an ID of useful, and let's go ahead and pass on the parameter of .horizontal, and I'll close the parentheses here. Alright, so what this statement now says is it says go ahead and find any items that are not a descendant of the useful ID and do not have a class of horizontal attached to them. And then what we want to have happen here is we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a class. It should be a capital C right there. That's a keyword. And the class that we're going to add is going to be our list_not class that we just created. Alright, let's save this page and let's go and take a peek in the browser. When I refresh the page, you should now see that all of the items that are not direct descendants of the useful LIs, that are not direct descendants of the useful ID, now become blue and they become italicized. So our styles are working. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back into my source code, and I think instead of making this blue, I'm just going to change this to a gray color because it'll kind of work better with the rest of my file. So I'll just change that color. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create a couple of additional classes that will target and get a little bit more specific here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to make a class called sublevel that is going to replace the list style with a custom list style graphic that I've created. So we'll go ahead and we'll target the, or put the path to the file that I want to use. It's located inside my image directory, which is up one directory from the page that I'm working on, and it is called bullet.gif. And I'm just going to copy this rule and I'll paste this in, and I'm going to make another rule that is called sub sub-level, and it is going to go ahead and target a bullet that actually is gray. So we're going to be using both of these statements. So I have two new classes that I've defined in my CSS. We'll come back into our jQuery, and now the next statement that we're going to be making is going to get more specific. So I'll type useful, and then I'll go ahead and I'm going to use the method of targeting those descendant items. So this time I'm going to be more useful. I'm going to be more specific and say that any element that is a unordered list item, that is a child of a list item, that is a child of the useful ID, is now going to be affected with this new class that we're going to attach to it. So we'll use the add class method once again, and we're now going to apply the sub-level class to it. So let's save this, and this bullet that we're attaching is red. So if we come in here and we refresh our page, we should now see that all of the list items that are not part of the main list item, okay, and we're not using the negation pseudo class right now, but we're just using a specific class. So we're saying any unordered list that is a child of a list item, that is a child of the useful ID, are going to now be styled like this. Well, we're going to take this one step farther, and we're going to make these third level list items be a different color. So let's add one more line of code. I'm just going to copy the line that I just wrote, and we'll just change this, augment it slightly. We're just going to add one more level of the descendant selectors to this statement. So I'll just go ahead and I'll put another set of ULLIs. So now it's going to say any unordered list that is a child of a list item, that is a child of an unordered list, that is a child of a list item, that is a child of the useful ID, is going to be styled, and we're going to style it with our sub level this time, which actually is going to make the bullets gray. So if we come back into our HTML page and we refresh, you can now see that the third level list items have this little gray icon instead of the red one. So this exercise is helping us to be very specific in exactly what it is that we want to target, and you can see by using the descendant selectors, and in some situations by using the negation selector, we're able to specifically attach a class to the elements that we want to on our page very easily, and really without the use of any sort of classes in our HTML. We had to make the classes in the CSS, but we didn't ever put any of those classes and attach any of those classes to our HTML. And doing something like this would be a little bit more complex without the use of jQuery, so you can see how this could streamline your workflow considerably.